Welcome to WKRP Montrose, a radio station masquerading as a podcast about Montrose, Colorado and the Western Slope, recording live from the Clear Network studio in downtown Montrose, Colorado. All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of WKRP Montrose.
Back again.
Are we going to mention how many we...
Yeah.
No. Do you want to talk about it?
Dennis quite enjoys the fact that there's no time in this room.
Time is a construct.
We get people in. So this will be the third interview we've done today, and they'll be spread out over the next few weeks.
I know what you really want to say. You really want to say that's my fault that I've made you overwork in a single day.
Probably. I don't like to work too hard.
But because I'm not here.
People will know that we should probably think about like changing hats or something. But also, I don't care.
Oh, that's a good point.
I don't care.
Where were you at earlier today? Why didn't you mention that sooner?
I don't know. Let's not.
You're one of those people.
Let's not overthink this.
You're one of those people. You bring up the thing after the fact.
Yeah.
And then act like you had the solution the whole time.
I'm trying to teach you. I'm hoping you're going to learn.
See, you just did it.
So.
Oh my God.
All right. Let's get stuck into this one.
Yeah. This is gonna be a good one.
I think so. So.
Only because he's over there. Only because he has an excellent haircut.
Yeah, that's true. But Dennis and our guest FrankRodriguez, they go to the same barber.
Yeah. I mean, yours looks better than mine though. And you got a little.
Yeah. Dennis is your head is an odd shape, I think. It's kind of like it's got a potato quality to it.
Not everybody could pull off the bald head.
Dennis is one of the people who cannot. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I will tell you.
He's pulling it off.
Yeah. I will tell you this, and we'll start with you getting to share the story that I told you. Don't tell me off record because I want to hear it on the show. I just recently got my head shaved, and I had this brief moment where when the lady started, she kind of started this way.
She started where there's nothing.
Where there's nothing, right? Yeah. And so it gave me that Shire look, the
like a monk
look, and I almost said, "Just stop there." Like I really wanted to like leave that there and come home.
Hold on to it,
because it would both horrify my daughter and my wife.
The crazy thing is you actually go to a place to have your hair cut. Why didn't you just get a?
There's hairs that come off my head.
No, but you get one of those skull. Razor things. Have you seen that? And just go.
I have. I don't want to give a free advertisement, but I have heard that there's a really great product called the Freebird.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be like really, really good for it. All right.
Not free though. So
we have much more important things to talk about. But
Frank had an anecdote that.
Yeah, I want to hear it.
We'd like to share.
We'll start out. So big thank you to Dennis and Rob for having me. It's an absolute honor to be here. I appreciate it. Any chance I get the opportunity to speak to this great, wonderful community, I take. So thank you for that. So
you're welcome.
Why I am bald, again, not by choice. My hairstyle is now by choice. And how we got on this is years ago, many moons ago, I was in the military and I had hair. And someone had taken a picture of an individual who was head down, kind of military, knife hand, correcting the behavior.
Okay.
And they showed me this picture. I'm like, hey, who's the bald guy who doesn't know he's bald? Because the hair was really thin and the entire room got quiet.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, oh, my God.
Is he standing behind me?
Is that me? And then like, it was me. And
oh, no.
Like, I kid you not. I abruptly left that meeting and shaved my head. And just immediately shaved it. I went right to one blade, just completely. When I come home, my wife's like, okay.
You made it. Yeah, you finally got there.
Oh, yeah. I didn't want to hold on to something that just wasn't. You just want to go up and kind of give that little pat on the guy's back and say, hey, man, let it go.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
To be honest, I thought you were going to say it was like your commanding officer or something and you got yourself in trouble. It was kind of worse. Yeah.
I thought that's exactly what it was. I thought when he was like, who is it in the room got silent? That's why I said, is he standing behind me? No, he was standing right there. You were him.
Yeah. And so I would just shave it like a one blade for years. And then when we deployed to Iraq, obviously we were going to be living in pretty austere conditions. Yeah. Electricity, water, not so much. So I shaved it and just been keeping that hairstyle since 2009. So,
It's a good hairstyle.
But it's interesting. This is a pedantic point, but is it a style or is it a lack of a style?
You don't. I don't know.
Yeah, is it choice or not?
Is what you do to your face a style or a choice or like?
Touche.
I mean, do you? We're going to talk about your beard one of these days.
Yeah. I got one more funny story
right,
on my shaved head. So a couple months ago, I'm in the gas station, right? And some guy comes up to me really quiet, like he's looking around. And in my head, right, being in law enforcement, you never know what your interactions are with the public. You know, sometimes it's good and bad. And I mean that perspective of, you know, I have great relationships regardless of whether or not, you know, in law enforcement capacity, I arrested him or her.
Yeah.
But this guy comes up to me. He's like, he's looking around. I'm like, I don't know how this is going to go. And he's like, hey, man, he got really quiet. He's like, hey, let me ask you a question. And he's looking around. And I'm like, okay, yeah, go ahead. And I'm thinking, I don't know where this, where are we going with this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He goes, hey, do you shine your head? And I get taken by it. I'm like, no, man, I sure don't. He goes, because I just bought some cocoa butter, and I'm hoping I get my head to shine like yours. I'm like, thanks, brother.
This is an all-natural shine, buddy.
All natural, yes.
That's amazing.
Pretty funny.
That's awesome.
True story.
Have you ever shined your head?
No, because I don't do it. I don't. That's what I was gonna. That's where the conversation was going because he cuts his closer than I cut mine.
I shave it, like literally shave it.
And I want to, but I'm lazy. And I don't want to have to, like, that's a commitment that you have to then stick with and do it.
And then if you don't shave it, your frequency that you start getting like bumps and stuff.
Yeah.
I know we're not talking about hygiene, but you know, those are things that for a bald guy, you got to take in consideration, you know, when you're
people out there.
And I don't leave this scruff here because, I do it for more than one reason. Because if I don't, then my chin disappears, you know? Yeah. So I keep the facial hair in part because I don't like shaving every day.
Right.
So yeah,
me too. That's
we just wasted how much of your time? It was 6 minutes that we just. If you're still with us, we have some really good stuff coming.
Yeah. So first of all, would you like a beverage? I
would definitely. You know what? You're that good of a guest so far. You got us out of our routine of thanking our sponsors.
Boom.
Yeah, I need you to do me a favor. Just point up here to the right here, above you. No, you, right there. Oh yeah. Look at that, Clear Networks. We got to thank them.
Thank you
for being sponsors of the show.
They make this happen.
They do make this happen. Yeah. We could not do it without Clear Networks in more than one way. I mean, they're financially supportive, which we're super grateful. But hey, without a really good digital connection.
Yep.
You can't watch great shows like WKRP Montrose.
Exactly. It can happen.
So you got to have Clear Networks.
Yeah. And Pomona Brewing, who provide us with liquid courage.
Thank you, Pomona Brewing, for contributing to my mental wellness. Without this, I don't think I could sit across from him for this long.
Exactly. So anybody who knows Frank a little bit knows that some stuff has gone down recently. So I have something to give to Frank before we have a conversation.
You're so proud of this moment.
I know, I'm very proud
You're
of
very
this.
happy. Oh, what is that?
Nice catch.
What do you have there? Oh, it's an elephant.
There's an elephant in the room.
I guess that we have to talk about the elephant in the room, or the Horton in the room.
Horton wants to hear who you've got to talk about.
So we don't. This component, this part of the show, is not going to dominate because this is not what WKRP is about. It's not about one issue. It's about the people who live in our community.
Right.
We're going to have a quick chat about the elephant in the room, and then we'll move on to some other stuff.
Okay.
Well, can I maybe?
Do you want to tell people what the elephant is, just in case they don't?
Well, I do want to say. I think the important part of this conversation that I really want to hear is I want to hear the story from your perspective.
Yeah.
And so.
So this is FrankRodriguez, civilian, formerly known as
the county
Montrose
manager.
County Manager.
Right.
Yeah. And it's the formerly part that is the elephant in the room. So maybe we give you an opportunity to just give us a breakdown and everyone who's watching of what the formally means and how that came about.
Do you want to hold Horton as a stress, like a stress ball through the whole time?
I might even pet Horton a little bit. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I think I'm going to start out by saying, hey, look, it was a great opportunity. And I was humbled by, I think, that opportunity to serve Montrose County and approximately 44,000 citizens that are here. And ultimately, that was my motivation to put in for it. I was happily serving as the Olathe police chief. And I was asked. My initial reaction is I can't spell county manager. I'm not very interested. And then I was asked again. And it's important for you to know kind of like my leadership mindset. I was enlisted in the military and then became an officer. And I became an officer because I had the opportunity to serve, right? And at the time, I was in a combat occupation, so it was just men. I got to serve them in a different capacity. So that's really driven me. Leadership is about others. It's about selfless service. So
Right.
as I sat there and I'm being asked by prominent community members, which I respected, I realized that would be a contradiction if I didn't put my name in for it.
Right.
And that it's important for everybody listening to know that was it. Had never had aspirations to be a county manager.
And there was a process. I mean,
There sure was.
Like they enlisted the community to give public comment and public people. They talked to staff. There was a big thing that there was a comment that Roger Rash had made, who was on the county commissioners at the time, that said that they were proud of the process that they took to discover and find you as that opportunity. And they were excited about you coming in as county manager at that time.
And I was excited to be a part of it. And I think in large part because of the process itself. It wasn't just handpicked by somebody that says, "Hey, I like
this guy.
haircut."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's going as a county
That's
manager.
why I would have picked you. I would have just right off the bat.
So the process was you submitted your application, and then they whittled it down to a group of finalists who then went through a panel interview. That was the first step, followed by several panel interviews, which was the staff, elected officials, and one of the panels, believe it or not, was the incoming commissioners. And at the time, it was Rick Dunlap, Tricia Murray, because we didn't know who was going to win between those two, and of course, Scott Majerus. So those were the three in that. So I had three different panels. And at the end of that, then we actually went and gave a presentation to the public. So great process.
Yeah.
I was honored to compete at that level with two amazing individuals. One of them is Matt Smith, and I have no problem saying his name. He's a dominant member in this community. He's an amazing leader. So to go up against that, someone like that, and I'm pretty spiritual. Everything is going to work out as it should. And I put my best foot forward, and I was selected. Very, again, humbled. You'll hear me say that a lot about the ability to serve at that level, right? We're talking 9 elected officials and 400 employees that make up this county. To serve them is great. And I do believe, right, that the pyramid is an upside down one for me as a leader, right? My job is pretty simple: remove obstacles, empower people, right? I'm not very smart. I tell people all the time I'm like a gorilla grip and a crayon. There's some comfort in that because I just have...
Hold on. Thanks for that, because all you did is just help. You just fueled the fire over there. That's coming back.
Perfect. Yeah. I'm gonna tee up a bunch of things for you guys.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think that this. Let's also not forget this has been your entire life leading up to this point. Like every position that you've held, it seems like has been in service of the community 100%. Or in service of other people that were there. So first and foremost, thank you for that.
Yeah,
appreciate that.
Because regardless whether it's an official position, I also want to say thank you because you take time out of your personal time. You've helped me personally. You've helped my wife with some of our initiatives in the community to try to help others as well. And so I have to say that I am biased in this situation because I do know you, and I've got to know you in that capacity, that you're very giving of yourself and you look for opportunities to set a great example for people. So thank you for that.
No, I definitely appreciate that. Again, this is a team sport, right?
Yeah.
The community is, it's a collaborative effort. It can't be done by one person. I recognize that. So to serve at that level is amazing, and I got to meet some amazing individuals. I cannot say enough good things about the staff that really serves this community in ways that we can't really comprehend. Everything from a broken water main to keeping the snow off the roads to adult child protective services, eligibility, women, infant, children programs, public health. Like all of that is amazing to be in an environment like that where you're just part of this collective group of people that are giving themselves. So to serve there was an amazing opportunity, and I cherished it 100%.
When was that? When were you installed as the county manager?
October 7th of 2024 was my first official start date. 2 weeks prior to that, I actually had started working because it was budget time.
Right.
It was an interesting time to assimilate inside an organization because you're coming in at a very challenging place because we're talking monies and we're talking, numerical values that really hit home to all of us because it's our monies and how we're spending those. So came into that process, as I say, very fortunate because the staff's amazing. The finance department, you will hear me say this time and time again, Emily Sanchez is a gem. She was a gem. The fact that we lost her as the assistant county manager was a huge detriment. That institutional knowledge cannot be replaced. So having her part of that as really my partner in this, I really learned a tremendous amount. So it made it easy.
Right.
So then that's October. We run through that. At the end of the year, the board's coming in. The existing board is there, budget process, and then we have incoming board. And at that time, we knew Rick Dunlap had won, and Commissioner Majerus, he was unopposed, so he was coming anyway. So February 8th happens, and Commissioner Dunlap passes away, which was just a huge shock. You know, you can imagine the community, beyond him as a man, as a husband, as a father, but really to what he's done as a sheriff. And then from one person to another, just to a man, he was a great person. And I think more often than not, when somebody passes away, right, during their eulogy, during their funerals, we talk them up. In this case, we didn't have to.
Right.
Rick was really that guy. And I was asked during the service, which is a huge compliment by the family, to speak. And that's how.
It's a testament, right, to you. I can say that it's a testament to you because that's not an honor that's given to many people.
And I took it as that 100%. When I was asked, I almost broke down.
Yeah.
And my reply was, I'd be honored to. And so I bring up Rick's passing because that really was kind of the catalyst to a lot of things that changed, and then ultimately why I'm here. We'll talk about that in a second, but that event highlighted to me what I've known before, and was attracted me to Montrose County, that we are part of a great community, and how that came together in a very, very difficult time, and in a short time to pull that off. That was, again, 100% collaborative effort between the staff, the family, the community, the sheriff's office, the police department, Montrose Police Department, to bring that up and have that really celebrate Rick's life. That was amazing, because I'm a type of individual that's, hey, there's a great opportunity to showcase Montrose. This is Montrose County. This is the amazing community we belong to, and celebrated a great person's life, at the same time showcased what it was to be part of it. So Rick passes away. Of course, that creates a void. The Central Committee at that point, it wasn't that people were being insensitive. You have 10 days to select his heir apparent. And, the nominating committee picked Sean Pond, and Sean Pond came in with Commissioner Majerus. So now you have Commissioner Hanson, Commissioner Majerus, and Commissioner Pond come in. And what I don't want to do is be critical. I'm giving you the facts that happened. The first board meeting that they had is they removed Commissioner Hanson, Sue Hanson, as the chair. Sean nominated Scott to be the chair. Scott nominated Sean to be the vice chair. So that changed the balance within the Board of County Commissioners. So my job, and I never lost sight of this, my job as the county manager is to serve, right? They are the incumbents, right? The citizens elected them to guide us in our direction. My job as county manager, and I will be repetitive intentionally, I never lost sight of the fact, is to make them as successful as possible, and then leverage the resources, in this case, the directors and all of our staff, in order for them to accomplish what they wanted based off their term as politicians. And that I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah. And I think it is important to point out, like you said, that this was a democratic process. You don't have to love the process, but it was a democratic process, and your job was to serve the board. And it's always interesting because how we define success, right, is success for Montrose County is success for everybody. So your job, was to do the best job you could do, under whatever the circumstances happen to be.
Okay. So, but I'm confused.
All right.
And I'm going to jump.
This will happen a few times.
I'm going to jump to it. You're in a community you love. You have a history of serving and facilitating for people. You take a lot of pride in that position. You take a lot of pride in the fact that you had won this position, and you were looking forward to serving people. You started in October, and your resignation was when?
April 15th was my last day as your county
okay,
manager.
so we're talking a short period of time.
6 months and a week, yeah.
Okay, so what changed? What is the moment that changed for you from I feel grateful to be in this position. I want to help. I want to facilitate. I want to make things happen. I maybe even want to, even more so now, having lost somebody that I respected in this position, want to make sure things work out and that I do a good job in this position. Like, what changes that you then decide to give your resignation?
So I think what changes, and you know, you can call it the genesis or the impetus, would be when, you know, a leadership team, they evaluate the situation, and in me in particular, because like it or not, there are two people that report. They're direct hires to the Board of County Commissioners. That is a county attorney and a county manager. I serve at the pleasure. Never lost that. This is business. If there becomes a misalignment in leadership, at that point, it is 100% up to them to ask for my resignation, and they did so. They asked for my resignation on April 14th, and based off a misalignment, and I think that there were some people want to understand what that was. You know, what does he mean by a misalignment? You know, what misalignment is, you know, what teamwork means, what integrity means, what personal accountability. When those are no longer running coinciding with one another, at that point it puts me in a position, as well as the leaders, in this case Commissioner Pond and Commissioner Majaris, to ask. And I even told them, like, hey, this is business. You are the Board of County Commissioners. If I am not someone that you want to help guide you in your direction, it's absolutely 100% your prerogative to ask for my resignation. And I gave it to him.
Were you also though thinking that you wouldn't be effective in the job moving forward if you decided to decline that request for your resignation? Was it, you know, could you see a path where you might be effective working with those county commissioners, or did you think this has got to be the end?
Yeah, I can promise you, and those listening, is that I gave everything I had. I exhausted every, I think, measure of who I am and my abilities, and, you know, me as a leader, especially in the collaborative piece. That once I felt that was exhausted, and they asked for it, I gladly gave it, because I knew that, to your point, Rob, that the direction we were going was not something that I wanted to be a part of.
Right.
And I'm not trying to be critical, because like it or not, right? I think someone said, if you want to be liked as a leader, sell ice cream. And I'm not saying that they should be liked. However, going back to me as an individual and as a person, as a leader, and how I can contribute, if I believe we're going in a direction that I'm not necessarily going to be effective, nor do I agree with, I don't want to be a part of that. And in that case, I gladly gave it.
Right.
My disappointment only stems around the fact of I really wanted to see this through, and I committed all that I am and all who I am to the position. Right. I took it serious. I wanted to serve, and I wanted to run this thing out, and I wanted us to be the benchmark of what right looks like. And I'm not, again, saying that we're not there. It's just, for me, individually, I'm disappointed I don't get to see that come through and build that team and make a successful Board of County Commissioners.
Well, there has been one thing, and I don't want this to go the wrong direction, but I just want to be clear. There has been some confusion, and there were other people that resigned as well in that situation. So just so I make sure that I understand, you're saying you were asked for your resignation.
100%.
You didn't just decide, hey, I can't do this anymore. Here's my resignation. I quit.
Right.
Okay.
So, there'd been some friction prior to that. And that's normal, right? And I always tell people in leadership, right, there's honeymoon period, climate, and culture, right? In order to get culture, it takes 4 to 5 years to get culture in that direction. Climate is where those friction points start, and honeymoon period, everybody loves you.
Yeah, right.
I understand friction So as long as we're moving in the right direction together, I think when we are diametrically opposed, in that is where, as an individual and as a leader, when you're a contributor to an organization and to a team, you have to do self-reflecting and say, hey, I don't necessarily agree in the direction we're going. I don't want to compromise who I am, my values, my integrity, my character. It is best, as I said in my resignation letter, for the community that I resign. Ultimately, it is not up to me to decide what's right or wrong. It's up to the voters, right? It's not, I'm speaking to myself in third person. It's not Frank's opinion. Unfortunately, I was, I could say, a collateral damage because I was asked. I put in for it. I gave you all I had. That's fine. We're going in a different direction now. And then to your point, Dennis, that same day, the county attorney was asked to resign. And then Emily Sanchez gave her resignation as well. So the institutional knowledge there lost by, I think, Marty Whitmore, who I think the world of, and Emily Sanchez, I think the world of both those two ladies. It's irreplaceable.
Do you feel as if you weren't given a chance either, though? Because 6 months... It wasn't even 6 months that you were working with the new board, right? That must have been... When did the new board come in?
So the new board came in January 14th.
So you had 3 months?
And that was Commissioner Dunlap and Commissioner Majaris.
Okay, so the board as it is with Commissioner Pond, you had basically no time.
Right. Commissioner Pond, I believe, was because Commissioner Dunlap passed away February 8th. So I want to say somewhere around mid-February, 10 days. Commissioner Pond was sworn in. So then, you really have March, April. So 2 months. And in that time, right, we're doing the best we can to figure out the direction that they want to go. I'm doing the best I can to support them in that endeavor, and we just...
it's not a long time, though.
Not a long time,
for a job like this, it's not... Yeah, it doesn't seem like you were given much of an opportunity to show what you were capable of or where you would like to see the county go, but that is what it is.
Yeah, it is, and I go back to... Hey, look, at the end of the day, as leaders, right? In this case, two commissioners, Commissioner Pond, Commissioner Majaris, they have every right to ask for my resignation. They are the politicians. They're the ones that the constituents Montrose County has elected in order to take us in the direction they want to go to. If I can't support them in the way they want, they have every right to. And there's no personal hard feelings. I don't have to agree with the direction they're taking them. That was not my job. My job was support them and make them successful. Not given the opportunity, here I am.
But if you had to guess, I'll put you in this position. If you had to guess.
Here we go.
Okay, there it is. If you had to guess in such a short period of time, what makes somebody change their mind and decide, hey, you said it's at their discretion to be able to ask for your resignation. Like normally, like deciding to, fire or let go of an employee takes some time. Like you have to address there's an issue. I don't think we're able to work together, or I don't think here's what I expect of you. You're not doing it. I want you to be able to do X, Y, and Z, and you be able to do that. That seems like a really short period of time. So if you had to guess, what were the real reasons that they wanted you to resign?
I don't even care to.
You don't want to go down that road.
On why they asked me. I think that's a great question.
That's a question for them,
for Commissioner Pond and Commissioner Majaris. All I can tell you, both of you in this audience that is listening, is that I, selflessly gave everything I have and all of my experience for the betterment of the community. And it's disappointing to be, unemployed at the age of 54.
I don't imagine that'll be for very long.
Well, we'll see God's plan, right? But I think, why I was asked to resign or what, at the end of the day, I can only speculate that they lost confidence in me and my ability to move in the direction that they wanted to go to. But it wasn't because I didn't try, and it wasn't because I was trying to undermine, fracture. Because, as well as I do, right, as leaders, anything we do that's adversarial would just create fractures within the institution. And then, I mean, with a false foundation, we're not going to grow. And that's not who we are. We address all the challenges. I will tell you the hiring of the public health director was a big one. I stand behind that, and I have since the beginning.
And that has seemed to have worked out positively in the end.
It did.
With some,
I think the only unfortunate part is the emotional toll, right, to get us to the same.
Which it seemed, well, when the outcome is the way it has been, it seemed unnecessary to go through that process. But that has a happy ending.
It does. He is an amazing human being. Like he's somebody that I recommend you get here and have him sit on the couch. I don't think you have to give him an elephant. No. But Mirza is an amazing person. At no time did he ever lose his character. We are lucky to have him. His pedigree is amazing. Yeah. So I'm proud that
we'll get him on
serving us public health director.
Right, do you have any other questions on this? Or
no,
because the elephant away?
We can take the elephant away because I feel like
can we
tough. I could throw him back. Yep, the elephant's gone.
We'll keep him there for the next.
So we've spent more time than I think that we anticipated or that we thought we would on this. But I appreciate you taking the time to have that conversation. Yeah. So how long have you been in the region?
So I've been here a little over 2 years. I am originally from Oakland, California. I like to tell people I was raised by a single mom, east side Oakland, and I was an obstreperous child, right? This is a nice way of saying it.
Yeah, right.
I have no idea what that means.
I got in a lot of fights. You're not born with this nose, you earn it. I was never, bad is always like, take that in terms, but I went to 3 high schools. I grew up in an era where, hey, if she said something wrong, I probably had a chip on my shoulder, and I only knew how to handle it one way, and that was physical.
Yep.
That doesn't bode well, I think, for anything beyond high school. I think my teachers only passed me because they wanted to get rid of me. They're like, God, I don't want to hand this kid off to another school. Right. So when I graduated high school, my mom said, Mijo, I love you, but I can't afford to send you to college. You can't stay home. And those hard words to hear, but knowing my mom, they're hard words to say. So I went to the military right away. I did know when I graduated in high school, I never wanted to be seen again. I didn't want to be that guy that, you saw at the high school parties when I graduated high school. I'm like, so I literally 10 days later, nobody's ever seen me again.
Right.
And in those 10 days, I got on my motorcycle and left and headed east until I ran out of money. I made it somewhere to like Carlsbad, New Mexico, I think, and then ran out of money, turned around, put my bike in the garage, joined the military, and never went back. I mean, I go home to visit very infrequently. I love my mom and my sister. I have a brother too. So go to the military, and it's just the square peg through the square hole, right? The star through the star hole. I mean, it just fit. They gave me discipline, purpose, selfless service, and I needed the military as much as they needed me. Right.
And which branch did you serve?
So I started out in the Air Force and then ended up gravitating over to the Army. And in the Air Force, I had a very special job. I was a pararescueman, and then became actually a combat control officer for a short time. And then 9/11 happened. I would be gone for the 10 years after that. I left 10 days after the towers fell.
Wow.
So September 21st of 2001, I was on a plane, deployed, and I stayed pretty much deployed for 10 years. So pretty hard time. Not trying to downplay anybody else's service, which I'm very grateful for them to serve at that level. But I had hard deployments. I lost a lot of friends, and it's tough. That the crucible war is a horrible thing. And those are the things we hold on to, the scars that stay on the inside. And I was honored to serve in that capacity. And it's interesting, dulce bellum inexpertus, war is sweet to the inexperienced. And we went through a period there where we were you practice and you rehearse, and you practice and you rehearse, and then you think you want to go to war, and then you're in war, and this is horrible to watch and be a part of, right? I saw the worst of humanity. I did the worst to humanity, but I also saw the best.
Did you feel at any point during that 10 years that you wanted to leave? Did you almost leave the military at any point? Or did you feel like it was your duty to stay in?
I remember, and I'll try not to get emotional. It's September 20th, right? So I'm leaving the September 21st. And my son, Zach, he's probably 7 years old. And he's crying. And he says, why do you have to go? And I said, because dads have to go. And if there's a dad that goes, I want to be the one that goes. And I never forgot that. And it was hard to say and hear, but I felt out of a sense of duty, right? Not everybody's afforded the opportunity to stand and fight for our way of life. And it was an honor to do that. You know, the horrors of war aside, but be able to serve our country in those capacities to me was an honor. I never lost sight of that. It comes at personal cost, you know, to this day, right? I still have them. My demons are there. And I don't want to talk about that, but it just is what it is. Yeah. It is, you know, an end result of what we've seen and done. So I take that kind of as a badge of honor because I've had the opportunity. So to your point, Rob, you know, there was at the end of my last, I think at the last few deployments, I was super unhealthy mentally. And I was ready. And retiring from any profession is a personal choice. And I was ready. And I left a very special organization. So it did not go well that I wanted to retire because, of course, they had plans. But the institution's about the institution, you know. It's not seldomly is the people. And that wasn't who I was, right? My identity's not tied to that. It was a phenomenal, very proud to have served in that capacity. But
You're ready.
I was done. You know, I mean, I was done at probably deployment number 5, and then to do 3 more pushes was really hard. And each one, you know, when I say horrors, you know, I'm losing friends, right? Like right there, you know, and I'm very spiritual, not because I've seen it or not because I read it or somebody told me about what I've witnessed in my own life. So God's got a purpose for all of us. That's why I'm here on your couch. So it was a great honor. And I know that's we're getting to what brought me here. So I retire, and my wife, a wonderful woman, tough, 33 years of marriage. You can imagine what she's seen and been through. Because I think when you leave, who you come back is not the same person.
Right.
She's had to live with that man in me. So I decided to retire. I'm like, hey, I'm getting out, you know. And she's like, what do you want to do? I'm like, I want to be a cop and coach football. So the coach football part is because I'm a byproduct of surrogate fathers who cared enough about me to hold me accountable as football coaches and baseball coaches, right? I didn't have a dad, right? My mom worked all the time. She didn't come to all my games. So my dads were these coaches and these hardcore teachers that, you know, would just make me do laps. Sometimes I didn't even practice. I just did laps because I did something bad, you know? So,
or because you had that proverbial chip on your shoulder. I identify with this a lot.
Maybe. And
I lost my dad at 15, and my coaches were a large part of the reason why I didn't go down a path that I shouldn't have gone down.
Right. Yeah.
You know, keeping me in line and keeping me with a purpose and keeping me directed at a goal.
Yeah, they
is
shape
huge.
us.
It's huge.
100%. Huge contributors in my life. And let's go back to the chip. It wasn't necessarily like a chip. I think I just grew up in an era that if you said something to me, I had to stand up for myself.
Right.
And I made it clear, right? The reckoning was a big deal. And even though I was going to lose, I was going to make you think about the next time. Right. You decided to do something that was not very nice. So I ended up going to the sheriff's office and coach football. I coached 11 to 13-year-old kids, boys and girls. They were awesome. It was amazing. Really, really, really enjoyed it.
Where was this?
This was in North Carolina. So thanks for the question, Rob. Sorry, I left California, joined the military. I ended up getting stationed at Fort Bragg. There was a special mission unit there that I got there, and you could stay there, and I did. I'll talk about my officer time here. When I became an officer, I ended up leaving the community and going back to, I wanted to be a company commander in the 82nd, which that was the best 2 years of my life. You know, I took a company of paratroopers to Iraq. So it was amazing because of their discipline and their character. So I get out, football coach, and I'm just a regular deputy, and I love it. Life is good. I think I ran a marathon. I ended up running 2, not because God knows I don't want to run 26.2 miles, but because I could plan something.
Right.
And actually see it come through fruition, because I knew I was going to have to deploy, or something was going to kick off in the world and I was going to have to leave at the moment's notice. So
the stability, you were looking for that.
Yes. So I loved it. So I run my first marathon, the Raleigh Marathon, and I wanted to be under 4 hours, and I got that, which is good. So I'm coaching football. Life is good. I'm pretty, going back to the selfless servant, I'm super loyal. The sheriff is an amazing individual. And he said, hey, I need you to run my SWAT team. I'm like, simple answer, yes, sir.
Yeah.
And make them the best, yes, sir. So ran his SWAT team, and it was we were a full-time special response team, which is awesome. So that just meant every day we came in and we were only dealing with the worst of the worst. The metric I was very specific of, we weren't. Marijuana is illegal in North Carolina, so we're not going after the grandma who's medicinal marijuana. No, we are going for violent criminals, and that's so. If you deploy the SRT or the SWAT team, it was purposeful, right? And that was always super important to me. And we were a good team. We did that, and then one day he asked me to be a detective sergeant. I need you to go to criminal investigations.
Well, you're blowing past this. Raleigh is not an area like Raleigh is a beautiful area. Mm-hmm. Raleigh's got some criminal issues.
It does.
And so you must have seen a lot in that capacity in Raleigh.
100%. And we were actually, at the time that I was serving, it was Moore County, it's south of Raleigh, west of Fort Bragg. But great community. But yes, I mean, it's just like any other community, right? There's drugs, there's crime, there's violent criminals. So we were used in that capacity. And then I got asked to be the detective sergeant. So now I'm a detective, still running the SWAT team. We're doing it, but now no longer full-time. And being a detective is awesome. You know what I mean? I called them, you just get your manila folder with your case, and you go out there and you work these cases. It's just like the opportunity to just kind of scratch at something and follow it and follow it and follow it. And then you're, regardless of somebody's act or what they did, everybody was always treated with dignity and respect. In this life, nobody's better than anybody else. We just, sometimes we find ourselves in positions that, maybe it was a wrong turn somewhere, but it doesn't mean we're bad people. So I never lost sight of that. And I think that spirit, really helps me as an individual to never lose sight of the fact of why I'm here, why I'm doing this. So fast forward, sheriff asked me to be his undersheriff, and I said, yeah.
I think we know where this is going.
Yeah, so I became his undersheriff, and we had a great organization, and we lost the election. Whew, thank God. It was tough, and I say that in perspective because I always pride myself on being a man of character and integrity. As long as it's not illegal, immoral, and unethical, I'm open, but I think there's a line that I stay at, and that's moral, legal, ethical. So it's nice to serve in that capacity, but I saw people sacrifice their character in order to get a job title, and that's just not who I am. And I know that sounds very critical, but it just kind of shaped me in a way that going back to the question of the answer of I was happy we lost, right? Because I didn't want to win on that platform.
Well, it sounds consistent. Like it kind of goes back into the point that we touched on that subject or whatever, but you have a line, you're not willing to cross it. And that defines some of the decisions that you make for sure. I also appreciate you saying that, every community has its issues, especially from a criminal aspect. And I'm really grateful when we have good police force, good, well-trained people. The issue becomes you hear people go, well, we don't really have a crime problem. There's a reason.
Yeah, because you have good men and women.
You have good people.
Decided.
All right, so you lose the sheriff's bid. That's a good thing.
It's a good thing. I ended up going to the FBI Academy, and it's super important to tell you that because I ended up meeting somebody named Blaine Hall. He and I are suite mates. So not roommates, but suite mates. So I got to know Blaine. You're at Quantico together and going through one of the best schools in the world, comprised of the most elite law enforcement professionals from around the world. So amazing. So we're there together, and I ended up getting a state job. I ended up putting in for the longest title that I can think of. I was the Deputy Commissioner of the Criminal Investigations Division for the North Carolina Department of Insurance.
That's pretty long.
Yeah, that's a long one. So I ended up fortunately landing this job. And again, whenever you enter an institution, the selection process is a highlight of how professional the institution was or is. And it was nice to go there. It was an independent agency that ran you through a bunch of stuff. I mean, there was scenarios, you had to put presentations. It was awesome. And I got fortunate enough to get picked. So I'm the number one guy in North Carolina handling fraud, high-end criminal fraud. So criminal, because we were all sworn with subject matter and territorial jurisdiction. So one of the two most powerful law enforcement agencies in North Carolina. So it's awesome. So I have 4 districts, special agents, 2 division chiefs, and it was awesome. And because of how our abilities, because of the legalities behind who we were involved in everything from manhunts to murders to high-end fraud. When I say high-end, millions of dollars. Like we're doing search warrants on $1 million houses with Lambos and Ferraris and Mercedes out front.
It sounds like you lived in an action movie. I want to know how you get from that to Olathe.
Okay, so that's a great segue into. So my wife and I, we're in North Carolina. We have this beautiful manicured farm. Life is good. I love my job. I have 10 million customers, right? That's the population of North Carolina. But I miss communities, right? Like I'm doing this like self-reflecting on the way from work because my office wasn't downtown Raleigh. It was in the Albemarle building, 11 stories. I overlooked the state capitol. Gorgeous. Like you guys came to eat. I could pick any food, whatever your palate wants. I'm going to find you the best in the world because we're going to walk down the street. So I'm sitting there and I'm like literally like pontificating. I'm like, is this it? You know what I mean? This is what I'll finish it out as the number one guy, which is, I say that with humility, and I'm a humble person. I never take anything for granted, right? Because life changes in a second. So I'm sitting there thinking, and my wife had kind of planted the seed like, hey, our kids aren't coming back to North Carolina. They're all, and we're going to be grandparents, and I want to have a relationship with our grandkids. So she's like, I want to go back to the Rocky Mountains. So there I am driving in my suit, right? Because I wore a suit every day, and a blacked out sweet Tahoe with lights and everything, right? And I'm driving to Raleigh, and I'm like, is this it? I wouldn't mind being a police chief. And all of a sudden, I kid you not, bing, my phone dings, and it's Blaine Hall.
There's an open spot.
He's like, hey, you want to be a police chief in a small town?
Wow. I'm
like, what's the name of it? He's like, Olathe. I'm like, spell that.
Olathe, Kansas? No, it's smaller than that.
Yeah. So, pretty simple. And, like I say, life's, for me, it's always been divine intervention, or as my wife says, a divine comedy.
Right. Yeah, indeed.
I had put in for other positions, and I'm not a very traditional candidate, right? So if you're a city manager in a big major city, a guy like me is never going to come across your desk because whatever agency you hire to help, right, consultant, they screen me out. Their metrics different because, I got 13 years of law enforcement. The military's, in law enforcement, I'm not being critical. In law enforcement world, that's kind of, they don't take that in consideration. They want to know how much law enforcement time from a like-size agency. So, in the perfect world, I wanted a 300-person agency in a pretty good community, but not where God wanted me. So went to Olathe and absolutely loved it. Loved it. And I think it's not title or rank. It's the opportunity to affect change in a community. And the great thing about Olathe is, right, I tell people all the time, culture will eat strategy for lunch.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You can be the smartest guy and try to do all these things that you've learned from, but if the culture is not willing to help you, it's not going to happen. Right. And I was blessed to have a good town manager, Monique Garrett. She's awesome. A great staff there. Small department. It ended up being me and one other officer at one point because we wanted to make sure that we built a good team. But the community, the way we were able to engage with them a lot in the schools, a lot with the Hispanic community. I learned to speak Spanish before I learned to speak English. So it was great. I was loving it, enjoying to serve that capacity.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah.
Do you regret leaving now to try this county manager thing?
I think, hindsight's over 2020, and I think if we stay in that space, I don't want to be bitter because, like it or not, however the county manager thing ended, I'm a positive person. I learned a lot. I grew a lot as a leader, and I got to be around some great people that otherwise I would have never met. You can try to maybe have read the tea leaves, but I don't know that would have changed because remember the impetus or the genesis for me to serve as your county manager was selfless service, right? So I would contradict myself if I didn't want to serve at a higher or a bigger capacity with a greater sphere of influence to serve a community. So it goes back to, I miss Olathe. I'm not going to lie to you. I miss being a police chief.
Yeah.
So in that role, I had no desire to ever use that as a stepping stone to go to a larger organization. I only know to do things one way, and that's to the best of my ability, and to give all I am, right, to that in a selfless way. Yep. Because you got to be careful. If it becomes about you as a leader, you're in a dangerous place. The second it becomes about you, about what I can get out of it, you need to hang it up. And I could tell you, never been that way.
You're talking to two guys who basically put themselves on a camera and send this out to as many people as we can possibly find.
Yeah, well, I do think that I think that's great. You're just trying to duck out of this and pull me in with you. Is that Rob likes for things to be about him? He likes the acknowledgement.
Me?
Yeah, absolutely. There's none of you need me to prove that to you.
I'm a very
you watch the episodes.
shy and humble person.
Yeah. Okay. Here's a challenge. Leave something in the comment. If you've seen Rob in a shy and humble experience, please share it with us because I'm dying to see that. Okay, so
we're
this
here,
has
this
happened.
is
We're here
today.
now. What's next?
Yeah.
I don't know, but let's go back to you two guys. I mean, like it or not, right?
You're deflecting now.
Oh no!
I'm going to go back to what's
Please
next.
don't talk about me, Frank.
But I think you guys are contributing to our community, right? I don't downplay that, right? You're not. I mean, you're selling entertainment to an extent, but at the same time, you're engaging community members.
Yeah, Frank,
right? So
it's because we don't want real jobs.
Yeah, no. Well,
That's
good for
what
you
it
that you
is.
got something you enjoy and you get paid for. So
Not much, Clear Networks. It's okay. But
I do think one of the things that I would like to see happen here, if you're going to point it this way, is we would like to see WKRP continue to grow as a channel. We want other people to come and sit in these seats, to have a different angle on, what the community has to offer, or, what it is. Like, we've interviewed people that are in the music industry. We've interviewed people that are, private business owners, and, we've interviewed all kinds of different people that are part of this community.
We can get a neon sign that says the FrankRodriguez Show.
That's true. We could get that.
no, God, no.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah,
take
you've
off?
done not a. I mean, listen, we're almost out of time.
Yeah.
and you're probably the first guest that has ever kept Rob quiet this long, without the need.
I told you,
That's not
I'm
that's
shy and
good
humble.
thing, yeah.
But we do have a little bit of time left. Not much, but I do want to ask about the future a little bit, but also just I want to ask you about this area and about what you love about it. It's the foundation of what we're trying to do here is profile the people that live here and figure out where they came from and all that stuff. But what do you like doing? What do you love about this area?
I love the landscape. I pride myself on never missing the small things in life. And I think as I drive around here, I am absolutely mesmerized by the majesty of the mountains, right? And the landscape. And I make sure that I don't miss that, because life changes in an instant. And I'm constantly like absorbing that like a sponge, whether it's the rain, sun, the snow. I love the landscape of this area in particular. Yeah. And then I think the other side of it, the community as a whole is comprised of some great individuals. They're here, I think, for all the right reasons, and they do appreciate it as well. So it's nice to go around the community and to have been supported. in the manner in which I have. I can honestly tell you, not to go back to the county manager job, I think what shook me most was during, I think, some of the difficult times, and you could watch the board meetings, but the people that came and spoke on my behalf.
I was there in person on one of those days. And people,
Rob, we've already established this is not supposed to be about you.
No, but a lot of people said a lot of very nice things about you.
And for me, the point is, I didn't ask anybody.
Yeah,
there's not one person that I reached out to and say, "Hey, Rob, come, or Dennis, come speak on my behalf. I need a little, I'm cashing in my friendship chip."
Yep.
No, I didn't. They showed up, and I was taken. That struck to my core and my heart, and I'm like, therein lies, and I don't want to dismiss that. We are part of a great community. So I drive around. I mean, for the most part, it's amazing, and I love that. My daughter has moved here. She's a nurse at the ER room. She's beautiful, and we have these beautiful grandkids. That they're little hellions. It's awesome, and I am such a bad influence. It's great.
You can do that without any of the responsibility, really. You can
That's the best part about
you
being.
can kind of say to your daughter, "Okay, time to go."
Yep, hand them back. There is a little babysitting though, because she works 12-hour shifts, so that's a long babysitting
gig
time frame. So I kind of reevaluate. It's like, hey, I thought I could just get them completely gorked out on sugar and like.
How old are they?
2 and 4.
All right, so that sounds like a lot of work.
You're in the thick of it,
but
as they say.
You also can't reason with them. There's no. You got to. Yeah, that's a tough age.
That's where the sugar comes in. That is the reason.
It does. So, but they're great boys, and I love being. I didn't know my grandparents, right? So it's nice to meet my grandkids and get to. And that's the great thing about life, right? Like I tell people all the time is like whether or not we want to go back to life, it's unrealistic expectations of what we had on our parents. They loved us in the way that they know, right? Mm-hmm. That gets me a chance now to be the dad and the grandpa I always wanted, right?
Right.
Doesn't mean I'm like by no means perfect, but I like, and I cherish that. So I love being a part of this. I have no desire to leave.
Well, that was the next question. Can we expect to see you in and around the community? And if that is a yes, which you said it is, what are you looking for in terms of the next challenge in terms of employment?
I think anytime you're unemployed, right, there is no option that you're not looking at. Right. I was asked the other day, in a perfect world, what would you want? And I'd say, I want to be a police chief.
You want Blaine's job?
Yeah. No, I love Blaine Hall, and I would never, ever in a million years take Blaine's job. Blaine is an amazing leader. I've seen that firsthand. And Montrose Police Department is lucky to have him. So that's not... but I would love to be a police chief. However, I say that only because there's no chief jobs around here.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Does that mean that I'm going to take one? And we do know, my wife and I talked, that we won't sell our place. And, because of our ties here. And now we have the grandkids and we have horses and cows. Like, she's got to stay here and manage the ranch. Do I take a job elsewhere and then come home on the weekends, and she comes and visits me when she can? I mean, that's a tough place to be.
Yeah. But it's a possibility, right?
It is,
you're not ruling that out.
Yeah, because there's no options. I mean, you just get on Indeed, go to the Colorado Association of Chiefs of Police. There's 3 jobs out there, and they're small, which would require me to uproot completely. And, everything's on the table now. Yeah. Fortunately, I have some time. Being retired military, financially, I don't have to make a tremendous amount of money, but I go back to what kind of the way we started. I just want to contribute to a team, and I want to do it in a capacity I think I'm best suited for. And I think, to me, that's law enforcement. But I won't discount any opportunity. I'm always grateful when somebody reaches out to me and says, "Hey, what do you think about this?" I'm like, yeah, absolutely. The unemployed guy is always going to be looking at every option, because I'm 2 months into it, and there's not much that's like materializing. It doesn't mean that those opportunities haven't presented themselves. But nothing really substantive that I think I'm ready to like dig in. And I just hope, that something would, open up here in the area, which would let me sleep at home every night, with my wife and my grandkids, and be there. But that's not for me to decide. Ultimately, whatever's going to happen will happen.
So
FrankRodriguez
consultant, because I like that leaves open a lot of things.
It does. It's funny you bring that up because Emily Sanchez and I actually, we partnered up. We kind of created a pseudo consulting business and focused on leadership, right? And the consulting has become, at times, it depends how you look at it, somewhat of a pejorative, you know what I mean? Like, consultant. But we really focused it on, I think, leadership. And we had our first customer, our first client was the city of Gunnison last week ago now. The city manager had put together kind of a menu of items she wanted us to accomplish, and Emily and I gave a 4-hour class. Loved it. It was amazing. It was well received. And I think there's a lot of opportunity in that, but I don't know how to market that. I mean, how do
it
you
sounds like you're saying you don't want a real job either.
I would love to be able to
start a podcast.
Yeah.
And,
show up to an organization.
You cut the man off.
Sorry.
This seems like a great opportunity. I think you've got a lot to share, and it sounds like Emily definitely has the experience. And I can only imagine, what the topics were, what the list of things were. But yeah, that's the first, I didn't know anything about that. I was literally throwing that out there. I could see that being a fantastic fit.
Yeah.
So if it's just a matter of marketing, listen, there's some great people in this region that know how to do that part as well. How do we get you hooked up together? Because I would love to see great leadership continue to be spread throughout like process and civic arenas, because I do think that we have good people in good seats, but that doesn't necessarily make them leaders. And so, especially in the sense of, being able to, leadership is a definite thing. Like it is an upside down funnel. That is the right way to describe it. If you're trying to be the tip of the peak, then you're not doing it right. So yeah, I would love to see you do more of that and stay here.
Yeah.
Go visit other places, help them get their stuff together, come back and be part of our community on a regular basis. Cause that's what I would like. I'm selfish though, so I don't have any problem with that.
If anybody wants any, reach out. We'll be more than happy to tailor your needs to your organization and give you that, at least a perspective. And so I think that's one angle. I know Emily has also started a business, Pony Express, extremely talented. And I know Marty Whitmore, the other county attorney, landed on her feet as well. She's in Telluride as an attorney working. So, good things happen to good people. And in those two cases, I think regardless of the loss to the county as an individual, Marty's doing well. Yeah. Emily will do fine. She's brilliant, talented. And then, God's got his plan for me. This is all purposeful. And I recognize that. I don't mean to make it religious or insert any religious connotation. That's who I am. Yeah. Very positive. Hey, I've learned a lot. This is where I'm at. Tell me where you want me next. Point me in that direction. I'm going to give you all I have.
It's funny because in a lot of ways, at any given moment, nobody can look back and predict that path of how you get to a place, Things happen in the moment, and it leads to something and something and something. And it's kind of whether you believe in it's divine intervention, destiny, whatever. I think it's you just got to roll with the punches a little bit, right?
Yeah. And
I never thought I'd end up doing a podcast with him in Montrose. 22, it's impossible to predict this stuff. Anyway,
I don't know what you're talking about because I had this plan all along.
You were just waiting for a handsome, charming British man to come along.
I'm still waiting for a handsome, charming British man to come along. If you guys know of any, please send them our way.
I teed you up for that one.
Mr. Rodriguez, thank you very much for being here. Thank you for coming and sitting on the couch. Yeah. Thank you for sharing a story and giving us a different perspective, or giving us your perspective, because I'm sure that I know a lot of people actually wanted to hear that. So thank you for letting us get to know you a little bit better. I hope you won't be a stranger, and I hope that we don't lose you as a part of our community, as a citizen in this community, because I think we're better off for it. So thanks very much.
Thank you both. Agreed. Thanks for what you do and how you contributed to this greater whole known as Montrose.
Absolutely. All right, guys, another episode of WKRP. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great evening, I guess. Am I allowed to say evening?
Yeah, whatever.
All right. Well, we'll talk to you soon.